Magic Tree House, Book Number 47, A Merlin Mission, Abe Lincoln at Last, by Mary Pope Osborne. Chapter 1, The Third Thing. Annie peeked into Jack's room. "Ready?" she whispered. "Yep," said Jack. Even though it was 2 hours before school started, Jack and Annie were already dressed. Jack put his notebook and pencil into his backpack. Then he picked up the pack and his sneakers and followed Annie into the hall. In their sock feet, Jack and Annie tiptoed past their parents' bedroom. Then they slipped down the stairs. When they reached the front hall, Jack and Annie put on their jackets and shoes and stepped outside. The early morning sky was gray. Everything was quiet, except for the sound of a gentle spring rain. "Should we get our raincoats?" Jack asked. "It's clearing up," said Annie. She pointed to blue sky in the distance. "Oh, good," said Jack. "Let's hurry." Jack and Annie stepped off their porch. Then they ran up the sidewalk and crossed the street. By the time they started into the Frog Creek woods, the rain had stopped. Misty rays of sunlight slanted down through the wet trees. Jack and Annie kept going until they came to the tallest oak. The leaves at the top of the tree sparkled with raindrops, and the magic tree house was lit by the morning sun. "It's waiting for us," said Jack. "I knew it would be," said Annie. She grabbed the rope ladder and started up. Jack climbed after her. Inside the tree house, they looked around for the 2 special things they had found on their last missions. "Great, they're still here," said Jack, pointing to a green jewel and a white and yellow flower in the corner. "And it looks like Teddy and Kathleen sent some stuff for us," said Annie. Lying in the shadows was a book. Next to it were a small folded note and a tiny blue bottle. Jack picked up the book. Its cover showed an old black and white photograph of a building. It looked like the White House in Washington, D.C. Jack gasped. "Oh, man, Abraham Lincoln." The Life of Abraham Lincoln. "Wow," said Annie, looking at the book's cover. "He was a great president." "No kidding," said Jack. "Do you think we're actually going to meet him?" He opened the book to the first page and read aloud. Abraham Lincoln served as President of the United States from March 1861 until his assassination in April 1865. He led the country through the terrible crisis of the American Civil War. He preserved the Union of States and outlawed slavery. "I can't believe it," Jack said, closing the book. "Abraham Lincoln, do you think he's supposed to help us find the third thing to break the spell that turned Penny into a statue?" "Maybe," said Annie. "Let's see what else Teddy and Kathleen left for us." She picked up the tiny bottle and the note. She unfolded the note and read aloud. "The third thing to break the spell is a single feather from a hero's hand. Use it wisely to give him hope, the hope he needs to heal his land." "That sounds like a riddle," said Jack. "I'll bet Abraham Lincoln is the hero," said Annie. "And," she looked at the note again, "we have to get a feather from him. Then we'll use the feather to give him hope." "Confusing," said Jack. "A lot of our missions sound confusing at first, don't you think?" said Annie. "But in the end, they all make sense." "Yeah, I guess," said Jack. "But that doesn't help us right now. There must be a magic potion in the bottle. What does the label say?" Annie held up the small blue bottle, and read the tiny writing on its label aloud. Take a sip. Make a wish for one thing to help you on your mission. Remember, trust the magic. That sounds kind of general, said Jack. Wish for one thing to help us on our mission? That could be anything. And remember to trust the magic, said Annie. She shrugged. Okay, we'll try to do that, said Jack. He took the bottle and the note from Annie and put them into his backpack. We've got everything we need, said Annie. A mission, a research book, and a little bit of magic. Ready to go? Yep, said Jack. He pointed to the picture of the White House on the cover of their book and said, I wish we could go there. The wind started to blow. The tree house started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 2. Pirate Captain. Jack shivered. The air was chilly, but the sun was bright. Bare branches outside the tree house swayed in the wind. Annie was wearing a long dress with an apron. Jack wore a cotton shirt over a red undershirt and a pair of trousers with suspenders. His backpack had turned into a leather bag. Jack looked into the bag. Inside were his notebook and pencil, the message from Teddy and Kathleen, and the bottle with the magic potion. Good, he said. It's all here. We've worn clothes like this before, said Annie. Yeah, when we ran from that twister on the prairie, said Jack. And when we helped Clara Barton in the Civil War, said Annie. Right, said Jack. So, did we land at the White House? They looked out the window. The tree house had landed in a grove of bare, sunlit trees. Beyond the trees, horse-drawn carriages rumbled over a circular carriageway toward a stately white mansion with tall columns. Oh, man, whispered Jack. The White House was breathtaking in the morning air, bathed in sunlight. A crowd was gathered outside the front entrance, men in long black coats and tall hats, and women in hoop skirts and bonnets with big bows. Looks like lots of people are visiting Abraham Lincoln today, said Annie. Jack thumbed through their research book until he found another black and white photograph of the White House. He read aloud. When Abraham Lincoln became president in 1861, the White House was considered to belong to all the citizens of the country, as well as to the president and his family. Anyone could walk right in. President Lincoln sometimes found it hard to work in his White House office because of the number of people swarming through the building. So anyone can just walk right into the White House and look for the president? Said Annie. That's crazy, said Jack. But it's good for us, said Annie. I guess, said Jack. But I don't want to be one of those people who make it hard for the president to work. Don't forget, said Annie. We're supposed to give him hope. With a feather that he's supposed to give us, said Jack. He shook his head, then took out their note from Teddy and Kathleen. The third thing to break the spell is a single feather from a hero's hand. Use it wisely to give him hope, the hope he needs to heal his land. How can we get a feather from him? Said Jack. And how can it give him hope? It's better to do just one thing at a time, said Annie. First, we have to find the president. Hey, Willie, look, someone shouted from below. It's a tree house. See? Oh, no, whispered Jack. Jack and Annie peeked out the window. A boy about 7 or 8 years old was looking up at the tree house. The boy wore baggy gray trousers with suspenders and a white shirt. He had dark, piercing eyes. "Hello," the boy shouted when he saw Jack and Annie. "Who are you? Why are you in our tea house?" "Your tea house?" said Jack. "It's not your tea house." "Yes, it is," the boy said confidently. "Tad, hush!" An older boy ran to join the younger one. He had a friendly, open smile and looked to be around Jack's age. "Don't mind my brother Tad," he shouted. "But it's ours, Willie," said Tad. "The White House is our house, and the tea house is in our yard." "Oh, man," thought Jack. That was what the book said, too. The White House was considered to belong to all the citizens of the country, as well as to the president. "I'm sorry, but this tea house is not like the White House," Jack called. "It doesn't belong to the citizens of the country. It's ours." "No, it's not," yelled Tad. "I'm coming up." "No, you're not," Jack yelled back. He reached for the rope ladder to pull it up, but Tad had already started climbing. "Hide our stuff," Jack said to Annie. Jack quickly pushed the Lincoln book into his leather bag. Annie stuck their note and the tiny bottle into her apron pocket. "Tad, come back," called Willie. "Leave them alone." Tad scrambled into the tea house. He grinned at Jack and Annie, his dark eyes gleaming. "I'm a pirate captain, and I'm taking over your ship." Tad shook his small fists in Jack's face. "Fight me," he shouted. "Cut it out," said Jack, waving him away. "Tad!" Willie shouted from below. The boy just laughed like a maniac and danced around the tea house, trying to box with Jack. "This is my ship now, matey." "Quit it," said Jack. "Tad!" his brother yelled again. "Your brother's calling you," Annie said firmly to Tad. "Go, now." "Who are you to boss me, missy?" Tad said, jutting out his chin. Annie laughed. "I'm not a missy, shrimp," she said. "I'm Annie, and this is my brother Jack." Tad lowered his fists. "Oh, hello, Annie, I'm Tad." He put out his hand, and Annie shook it. "Pleased to meet you," said Tad, completely dropping his role as a pirate captain. "What are you and Jack doing today?" "Actually, we're hoping to meet with President Lincoln," Annie said. "Really?" said Tad. "Me and Willie know a secret." He gave them a sly grin. "If you come with us, we'll take you straight to the president. I give you my word." "Thanks, but we can handle it ourselves," said Jack. The last thing he wanted was for this kid to get in their way. "But I want to help you. Come with me," said Tad. He started down the ladder. "Should we go with him?" Annie whispered. "No, he's just making stuff up," said Jack. "Are you coming down?" called Tad. "Or should I come back up so we can play?" "Darn," said Jack under his breath. "Let's go, just to get him away from the tea house." Jack grabbed his bag. Suddenly, Tad poked his head back into the tea house. "Are you coming or not?" he said. "Yes, go," said Annie. "What's in your bag?" asked Tad. "Nothing," said Jack. "Go back down." He didn't want Tad to see their Lincoln book. "Let me see," said Tad, climbing into the tea house again. "What's inside?" "Nothing. He told you nothing," said Annie. "Then why is he bringing it with him?" Tad asked her. "Fine, I'll leave it," Jack said crossly. He dropped the leather bag to the floor. "Happy? Let's go." "Yes, let's go," said Tad, and he disappeared down the ladder again. Jack reached into his bag, grabbed his small notebook and pencil, and stuck them into the back pocket of his pants. "I'll come back later and get the book," Jack whispered, "after we get rid of this kid." Annie smiled. "If we can," she said. Then she and Jack started down the rope ladder.